introduce you all to Stephen Conway, Chief Executive Officer of TasTAFE. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Tony. Well, I tell the kids that you should have seen the Mexican way just before I started my presentation. For those of you who were here last year, you might remember that I presented on a theme of No TAFE is an Island. Interesting, and perhaps ironically, today I make a presentation about why we in Tasmania may just think about operating a little bit outside of the national norms. My supporting PowerPoint presentation today is simply made up of photographs of happy, contented students who are currently enrolled in nationally accredited training packages with TasTAFE, and I will be gentle on training packages, Rod. These students, like many vet students across Tasmania and Australia, have made the decision to undertake vocational studies because they want to increase their opportunities to respond to the skills demands of industry. Many of them are undertaking training directly related to their employment. They may be apprentices or trainees. Alternatively, they may be seeking a better job, a promotion, or simply wanting to carry out duties of their current role better. For those students in work or seeking a better paid job or an improved set of conditions, they will have a view that their study is an important way for them to improve their saleability in the market. This is one way that our national vet system is designed to work. Industry, and in particular employers, create demand through a desire to improve their overall productivity, deal with increased sales or production requirements, or perhaps respond to international changes in the market that they operate in. RTOs then respond to that demand for change labour and skill needs by offering national study pathways, and they market them to the public, most times drawing upon the direct connection to the study and its outcomes in relation to jobs as the marketing hook. And then the completion of this demand-supply marketing cycle is the students who take on the studies to gain the skills that are in demand. Simple. Like all things theoretically in balance, a cycle in harmony, an eloquent system where the employers create demand, RTOs generate a conduit for the demand, and the students are at the end of the supply chain. However, and there's always a however, some circumstances do not fit into this world of simple, harmonious systems. In my presentation, I'm going to focus on something that I think is not totally in balance in Tasmania. As you look at those smiling, contented students on the screen, I want to tell you something about the individuals. 80% of them are employed. Therefore, 20% are not working as they undertake their study. Approximately 50% of the students enrolled in TasTAFE are aged between the ages of 15 and 24. That's around 15,000 enrolments in every 1 year. The percentage of this age group who are out of work is much higher than 20%. It is also in this age cohort that Tasmania has some of the highest levels of unemployment across Australia. There are some regional areas of Tasmania where a lot are doing it tough, and it is generally the younger people who are doing it toughest. And what's more, many of these unemployed young people are also not engaged in training and not in school. For these people, it's just not in their mind that a solution to the economic woes of Tasmania is to go to TasTAFE or the University of Tasmania or another RTO and then seek work on the mainland, or perhaps go straight to the mainland. It's not in their thoughts, because for some of these people, they need support to get job or study ready. For some, a Certificate 1 is an enormous challenge. And whilst I prefaced my opening remarks about regional Tasmania having some of the community doing it tough, you don't have to look far beyond Sandy Bay here in the Hobart region to find these issues as well. I apologise for perhaps focusing upon some deficit issues in my presentation. I normally like to start from a strength base. But the reality is that our state unemployment figure overall does mask a very high youth unemployment rate. Something that was also very true in my home state of South Australia. In VET in Tasmania, we do have a strength base, and it is a very connected educational system. And it's fantastic to come along to this conference and see people here from the schooling sector and other RTOs and the university coming together. But back to Tasmania. Unlike South Australia, Tassie has a very distributed population. Small and medium regional rural communities, other smaller islands, often quite isolated, and this is a part of the charm of Tasmania. In previous days, these communities were sustained by industries that in some cases no longer exist, or that the demand for their contemporary skills is provided by people outside of the community, perhaps using technology or perhaps flying in and flying out. So, what's out of balance? Well, I think what's partly out of balance is delivering training packages for unemployed, potentially disadvantaged people where there is no or little demand for the skills they will get. It's just not a system that is totally harmonious. Of course, any skills picked up through a training package will stand anyone in good stead if they're looking for a better job. But it could also have a demotivating effect on its own if the skills gained are not put into contemporary practice. Some people are just not capable to keep studying up through the qualification chain until they gain work. TasTAFE does not want to operate in a system that has some potential to be out of tune. We take our Tasmanian vet leadership responsibilities seriously, and today we're putting forward a better way to think about Tasmanian skill requirements. A better way that perhaps might help communities and the overall economy as well as individuals. I should also add from a strength base. This better way is designed to help those who are already employed and who are already contributing to the economy through the use of their skills. TasTAFE's conceptual better way being promoted is backed by research and practice, and you had the benefit today from hearing from John Buchanan along a very similar theme. Research on what is being done in England, Scotland and indeed across the United Kingdom. Research on what is being done in Canada. Research in what is coming out of the LH Martin Institute in Melbourne. And the good best practice that has been done in many school and educational environments across Australia. Practice that for many educators is based upon the ideas, research and practice of Australians and visions of local people, and one in particular who's joining us here today, Paul Kearney. The better way is to deliver vocational education in a manner that moves from a total focus upon technical competencies to a more holistic approach that will create a more capable graduate. A graduate who would perhaps be less reliant upon their technical competencies to gain them that job advertised in the Mercury on the Saturday morning, but more able to self-determine and then create their own demand for products and services. A graduate who has additional characteristics of being enterprising, entrepreneurial and innovative. A graduate who is more capable of setting up and sustaining an enterprise in their own right, who can earn money from their endeavours by making and selling goods, by connecting people up on the internet, by developing an innovative way to overcome a problem, of marketing themselves as doers, problem solvers and sellers of good ideas. We all know that most training packages include those core Australian employability skills, and that from July this year, vet professionals must have the language literacy and numeracy extension of the TAE. However, many of us know that it's quite often these things that are seen as a lower priority than the technical components of the training package, and that the cost demands when considered conducting vet delivery and assessment preclude their active involvement. The notion of a more holistic, enterprising focused vocational education training model has many positives for Tasmanian citizens. As mentioned before in relation to unemployment, people out of work have great inherent skills and they can be found right across Tasmanian communities. I've mentioned some of the barriers these people face: access to service provision, long-term unemployment in the community and in their families, loss of traditional industries to gain employment, and for some, a degree of hopelessness about finding a way to personal prosperity. They will also be found behind very real, very tangible barriers in places like Risdon Prison. TasTAFE is building upon its relationship with the Department of Justice and Risdon Prison in particular to deliver vocational education training to those Tasmanian citizens who just happen to be prisoners in that facility. I'm not an expert in the field of prisoners and that whole justice system, but I do understand the power of education and the transformation that can come from gaining a set of vocational skills, a qualification, and a sense of spending time doing productive things rather than merely serving time. All Tasmanians should benefit from a different and improved model. For people facing barriers that hold them back from employment, there may also need to be a change of life skills and attitudes. People who are being held from personal progression back by other things such as low-skilled work will also benefit from enterprise skills. In a vocational sense, education creates a different set of enterprise education creates a different set of outcomes for those students. Our proposed model will include more inspiration and support for our students who have been there and been successful at that. More educational content from outside of the confines of the training packages. More community-based project work that requires individuals and group work for success. More recognition of their current skills and capabilities and using them as affirmation of existing formal educational progress. More use of student peer group evaluation, review and reflection. More opportunities to explore different and alternative ways beyond the accepted path to achieve an outcome. More focus upon opportunities as well as risk, and more purposeful pathways linking schools, TasTAFE and other RTO partners, as well as the University of Tasmania, with industry and employers. So many of you in the audience may think that this is all a bit new and perhaps a little bit too far away. But I'd like you to do your own research on the topic. Type in either enterprise education or perhaps type in the Gazelle Group in the United Kingdom and start your web journey in respect of the research on what economies who have been successful in downturns of business have done around vocational education. To quote from the Gazelle Group website, Gazelle Colleges Group was formed in January 2012 to transform further education for a challenging world of work. It is developing innovative new learning models and new partnerships with businesses to deliver an improved outcome for students, their communities and the economy. Today's world of work is driven by new businesses, new technologies and a global economy. It is made up of increasingly small, decentralised, agile organisations making work and career opportunities less predictable and less secure. The Gazelle Group was formed in 2012, but it is a consolidation of a range of further education colleges in the United Kingdom who've been driving this message home since the early 2000s. In the English experience, employment demand dropped off when the English economy collapsed. Does that sound familiar to us in Tasmania? Astute policymakers, educators and further education leaders searched for a better way. What they found was that you can adapt a technical competency-based curriculum to build in an enterprising element. Innovation in English industry today can in many cases be tracked back to these enterprising colleges. In TasTAFE, we're not ascribing a theory that says we need to throw out our delivery based upon nationally accredited training packages. Far from it. What we need to do is to work with all of you in this room to think about what we can change from what we're currently doing to perhaps be more focused on the needs of all of the Tasmanian community today. And I do get the message about business. I do get the message about industry-led vocational education and training. But that will always miss out on some people who don't believe that system is designed for them. So what I'm talking about here is the opportunity to deal with people in relation to all of their capabilities. But as educators, we know it's not going to be easy to adapt a better way, particularly when we're talking about introducing more things that can go into the training package delivery. We know that as you add time, you add cost. And when I talk about the cost, I'm not talking about the price charged to the student by the RTO. I'm talking about the actual cost of vet provision to deliver a training package with these other capabilities built in. TasTAFE knows that you do not change things by talking about them. To get different outcomes, your inputs must also change. When we roll out our pilots, which we will be doing very soon, relating to enterprise education in respect of what we might, for the benefit of today's presentation called Tasmanian Skills, we know that our educators must have the capabilities themselves to deliver a different additional set of skills. If we as an organisation start saying our graduates have additional capabilities, those graduates must all be able to prove that they have them. We need to have developed assessments to test their additional capability. Not everybody will gain these attributes and capabilities straight off. This development will take time. We're not going to change the world overnight. Tasmania's economy will bounce back, and today I was party at a Deloitte's presentation, a little bit of which you've seen here at the conference, where there's a strong optimism about our economy. When it bounces back, we want Tasmanians to be at the front of the job queue for those jobs that will be created. We also want enterprising, innovative and entrepreneurial graduates who will be part of the economic shift. We want our current workers to use enterprising skills to add to the upswing. We can make a difference, and hopefully next year I can come along here with some exciting photographs of active and enterprise TasTAFE students who are today, sadly for them and Tasmania, unemployed in jobs or personal circumstances that do not bring them vocational satisfaction. TasTAFE wants to be part of the economic solution and the creation of enterprising communities. We want to not only be policy takers, we want to be policy influencers. We think we can emulate those successful outcomes that have occurred in the United Kingdom, in Canada and other countries. And for us, we think that an enterprising student will be an enterprising Tasmania, and that must be a good thing. Thank you. There you go, Tony. You didn't even have to come out from behind the screen.
You've done well for me. Thank you very much. Please thank Stephen for their presentation. Now, before I hand over